It comes to an end, and rookies are now that much closer to getting in OTAs and being teammates as they start to see the veterans. It's all coming today. Where do they go from here on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back in, everybody. We're brought to you by Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You're going to get $20 off of your first purchase at Game Time. Thanks for joining us live. We're going to go through what should happen next. What should we expect as the preseason, offseason, whatever you want to call it, begins here. Before that, we're going to get to name or number, a new segment that we're going to run through. Looking forward to that. And we're going to start with the rookie camp is officially over. A couple of things, takeaways, what we are seeing right now and just how excited we ought to be. You can find all of our other work at KC Chiefs Corner for everything that Chris is doing. And I did it wrong again. You can find me over at NFL 33 and RGR Football. Both of those are .coms, and I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to this because I haven't been able to, obviously, to be at practice every day or to take the takeaway. So we're living a little vicariously. If you want to do that as well, we'll let you know when something happens. If you want to get over to the text line at 816-357-8781, you can get signed up there. So long story short, I feel like it's been quiet, and that's a good thing for rookie camp. What are your takeaways? What do you think?
Yeah, I think quiet is a good way to put it, and I think that that's exactly what you want this time of year. You want to have them come in, get out, and be set to go and ready for OTAs. And maybe some guys can make a name for themselves, making, catches or breakups or interceptions or whatnot. But again, like we've talked about this earlier this week, I mean, they are in shorts and they are just in shorts and a shirt. So, not really much you can take away from it other than just, getting them out there on the football field and seeing them in person and kind of seeing how they react to learning the playbook, which is one of the bigger things that you can try to figure out. How quickly are they going to get into that and understand it? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's the key. It's all about adoption, right? What can you ingest and figure out and be comfortable with? And everybody's got, I think, kind of a different pace. I found it really interesting. They put out some promo materials for all the draft picks and stuff. And what that said to me was everybody's in different space. What are you looking for? And if you take a look at some of those images in particular, you see a common thread through it, and it reflects what the team's goals are and how players might fit into it, except for one person. And I think kudos to Josh Simmons for doing his own thing, because I think mentally he's like, okay, I need to do as much as I can. I need to be here physically. I'm probably not going to be there for this season. So I thought that it was a pretty disparate is a better way to put it, difference between some of these young players.
Yeah, and I think you look at how this is going to play out. We don't know what we're going to get from Josh Simmons. He's already doing more than we expected him to do at this point, so it's possible that there could be more coming. We'll see how that goes. I did find it interesting, although it's not surprising. Jalen Royals is the one they sent to the rookie symposium. It's always going to be an offensive play. It's always going to be like a wide receiver of some sort or a quarterback or something like that. I think I only saw one or two defensive ends on there in a 42-player list. So not too surprising there. But then you look at, I watched something else on I watched Steve Smith talk about Jalen Royals because I was just curious what his opinions were. Played in the league for a long time. He's got his own podcast, and he's sitting there talking about Jalen Royals, saying a lot of people thought he was going to be a slot. Doesn't have to be. Could be an outside receiver, could be an inside receiver, lots of different things. Versatility is one of the big things that he brings to this offense. But the thing that really encourages me about this is that one of the things that you watch on his film when you go back and watch it is he catches the ball and attacks. He gets upfield, he gets vertical, and he is not afraid to hit people. Nope. That is going to be exciting to see. You can't see that type of stuff during rookie minicamp, but the point is that that's the type of thing that we're waiting to see when we get to training camp and those kinds of things. But it's getting these players involved, getting them used to the offense, getting them used to the play calling and the play designs, and getting them all on the same page going forward.
Yeah, and it takes a village to get there because everybody's got to take their piece of it and apply it to where they're going. It makes perfect sense. And I do think that the symposium in particular gives you a little bit of insight as to what the league thinks of each team and what they might see on the field. I think that there is a significant possibility the Jalen Royals might have the best path to playing time, certainly on the offensive side of the ball, but maybe of the rookie class, to be honest.
Yeah, he definitely could. And I mean, you're looking at a situation where he could step in and I'm not going to say he's going to go off for 1,000 yards, but I could honestly see 500 yards just because the way the Chiefs like to move the ball around and they like to set things up and they like to use different players in different situations. And he's going to get a combination of all of it. So it would not shock me for him to get a 500-yard season, his rookie season. And a lot of people were looking at him as maybe even a second-round pick, and the Chiefs caught him a lot later. So, you look at it, and from that perspective, Kansas City got a good one, and I think that that's going to be a fun pick to watch.
Yeah, I have to think so too. And I'm just double checking his snap counts and where he aligned, because I think I misstated. I think I flipped it last week. He aligned mostly on the outside, but he could go into the slot. So I'm double checking it on 500 snaps. It looks like, 379 on the outside, 82 inside. So roughly 20% of the time on the inside, right? Okay, that's great. We also said the same thing about Rashee Rice, and he ended up running from the inside quite a bit as a rookie. So I could see the same relative progression. Not that it'll be the same thing as Rashee Rice, but it's a usage pattern we could see happening, right?
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point when you talk about Rashee Rice. There's similarities in their games. I'm not going to call them the same player by any means, to be clear, but there are similarities in their games. And it actually gives them a little bit of Rice insurance early on in the season. Not that I think he can step in and do what Rashee Rice can do, but it gives you another guy that can step in and be productive and help you early on in the season when you're likely not to have Rashee Rice.
And nobody's going to cover him, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
until he burns them.
Yeah.
And there's still questions on what his real speed is, because he was injured going into the process, so nobody knows what his people have an idea of what they think his 40 time is, but he timed at 4.42 at 80 or 90% of health.
Right.
He's quicker than that.
Yeah. And I'll take that.
Not sure how much quicker, but
I think we're going to find out on film, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
The question is, who else is going to be on the field to get on that film? That's going to be coming up next.
Imagine watching your team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time Picks is amazing. It curates and makes it easier to find the better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and much, much more. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. Go check it out. The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It is a super deal. And you have peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Guaranteed prices are always good, especially when they're low. So check them out, and check us out over at KC Chiefs Corner, NFL 33, and RGR Football. So this is something new. You want to run it down?
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about right after, I think we talked about it right after the draft, or maybe even heading into the draft, was Kansas City was going to have some cap space after the draft. And you see veterans that are getting released right now. And you see trades happening. And not surprising, Kansas City wasn't interested in George Pickens. He went to the Cowboys. But you see players getting released. And so to me, this is a situation, and what I want to talk about in this segment, name or number, is the guy just a name? Or should the Chiefs be getting his number to try to call him and bring him in?
I like that. Okay. So you're right. So before we get to the options here, where are we cap-wise?
Cap wise, they have, let's see, about $12 million, and that's before the Trey Smith signing. So a little bit more than $12 million. And so you would think that they probably need 6 or 7 to fill out their roster, I would imagine. So maybe you have 5. You don't have a ton, but the point is you're going to likely get a deal done with Trey Smith. They're working on that. The question is do they want to spend any of the money that they could be getting?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. And I guess we would know if one of these moves does happen, what that means in their anticipation of getting it done, right?
Yep, because at this point, you got to figure that they're going to be going down. Okay, so it is May right now. They don't have to be under the salary cap until almost September. So they have, all this time to play with the top 51 salaries and see what happens. And this will give us this could give us an indication, I should say it that way, whether or not they think they're going to get a deal done with Trey Smith. Because if they think they're going to get a deal done, maybe they're more likely to go spend money somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. So who's sticking out to you?
Well, just a couple of names that I saw that got released recently is Gabe Davis and Jadeveon Clowney.
I feel like Davis was more of a surprise. Did you think that?
I was surprised. He had a high contract number, so that's not surprising that they want to move on from that. But I was surprised that they released him. I didn't expect that.
That's fair. I'm not sure, given the youth movement here, what that means. So I wouldn't say that he's a name. I would say he's made some big plays against the Chiefs. So maybe Chiefs Kingdom knows a little bit better than maybe some other fan bases around the league. But he's a minimum name. He's a guy that's recognizable. This is a team that has Hollywood Brown as the veteran leader in the room, right? Rashee's pretty close, but he's still a very young guy, rookie contract and all, and obviously has some maturation in his plan for this season. So do you think that it's the veteran aspect that would lead to interest?
Honestly, at this point, I'm not so sure that they would be interested in Gabe Davis. My whole point was name or number. To me, it's more of a name at this point. I don't think that there's a reason for Kansas City to make that call unless somebody has an injury that we don't know about or there is a setback of some sort. Would it be nice to have that veteran presence on the field? Yeah, but I don't think he's going to sign a contract. I would think he's going to get more than vet minimum. And with that, I think that there would be some expectations. So I don't think that that's going to be a good fit in Kansas City.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I would just say that it's a name as well. You have Juju Smith-Schuster in the house as well, right? So you have 2 guys with a lot of experience. The only name that I could see him beating out, honestly, right now in terms of fitting into this offense is Sky Moore. And we don't know if they're going to be willing to part ways early with a guy on a rookie contract. So I think that question mark is a little bit up in the air. He needs to be forced out, in my opinion, by Nico Remigio or if you think Badger has a chance to make this roster. So that makes sense to me. I would say he's a name as well.
So what about Jadeveon Clowney?
I'm not convinced, although I have said this in the past, and then he actually performs well. I'm not convinced he can walk into this defense and perform well. And I think, honestly, it is a defensive line position, but he's not a 3-tech. I'm looking for a 3-tech to man the front, especially against the run. The Chargers coming after this team, honestly, with new running backs in Las Vegas and Denver. Like, I think it's going to be an acquisition at D tackle that needs to be run-oriented myself.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you on that one. I'd say it's more of a name as opposed to a number, mainly because I don't think that you're going to get Jadeveon Clowney for under, $6 or $7 million a year. I don't think that you want to spend that on a guy that's not going to be a starter. I mean, he's not going to come in and start. Karlaftis is going to start. I would imagine Minihue is going to start. Dana is going to be a rotational guy. I'm not saying that Clowney isn't better than Dana or maybe even a Minihue, although I would say there's questions whether or not he could be better than a Minihue.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the value there. So to me, it's a name in this situation. I do think that Kansas City could be looking for these types of players, but I don't think that either of these guys specifically probably fit.
Well, and I'll go you one step further. When you take a look at history, this is what, the fifth team to walk away from Jadeveon Clowney. So
Yeah.
I don't know that longevity's there. I don't know that you want to, again, upset the apple cart, introduce more change. We know they're very sensitive about the makeup of the locker room. And we know just from what they've been pounding into the rookie class that they are aiming to go back to this Super Bowl. And I don't think they're going to let anything come in to be a distraction. And sometimes I feel like that's what he's been in the past. So I would definitely call him just a name at this point. But
well, and I also don't think that it's, you make a great point. I don't think that they're going to be looking at anybody that's going to take away from the chemistry on this team. And he hasn't shown, with his age, you would expect there to be some leadership. And he hasn't really shown that in his career.
Yeah. And that's completely fair. And some guys don't have to. If you want to be a hired gun and just go make plays for whatever your ability is, perfectly fine. Just isn't going to happen in Kansas City. That works too. But there are people that could do that or that have a role to be played. So what do we expect for the rest of this offseason, at least what starts now? We'll run that down coming up next. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find the specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. It gives businesses the flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries. IT, AI, web development, marketing, whether you need extra hands or a long-term partner, Upwork can make hiring simple and affordable. I use it whenever I need somebody to do something I'm not prepared to put the time into, whether it's graphic development, websites, AI, the whole thing to automate. It makes it cost-effective because you don't have to grow by hiring full-time people. You get affordable top-tier freelancers and scale efficiently as you need to. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWRK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. So you're going to hear the terms phrase of the offseason. And I just thought I'd review real quick about where we're at in this process, especially as teams are getting looks at their veterans and some, as you've mentioned, are getting let go. Right now, we are in phase 2. It has begun. Some of the veterans will be on the field, and you can do drills. You can do offensive plays together. There is no offense on defense. That's one of the key definitions of phase 2 of the offseason, is that you're not going offense against defense. So you could do shadows, you could do blocking drills with bags, whatever, but it's offensive players only and defensive players only. Then that flips when we get to phase 3. And that's what we usually think of as OTAs, where they have 10 practices that they can do, or 10 days that they can do of OTAs. Usually the Chiefs do 3, and then 4 that ends in the one mandatory minicamp they're able to do. So that's kind of the lull that we're in right now. And for me, I think what needs to be happening next is the cuts are obvious, right? But now that we're past the draft, the pro personnel team, while the area scouts and all the guys that are out there on the college beat, where they're getting some well-earned rest, the pro personnel scouts need to be looking for who could be one of those cuts, who could be a guy that loses his job to one of these draft picks. So I think it's a lot of study time right now, maybe not a whole lot of exertion.
No, I agree with that. And I think that that's, probably what's going on around the league right now, is you have all these different teams that are going to be looking at the rosters and saying, okay, they picked these guys, who could they possibly be letting go? And in some situations, and we talked about this, I mentioned this earlier, the George Pickens trade, that was thought to be something that could happen before the draft happened. It didn't happen before the draft, happened after, but Dallas knew that Pittsburgh wanted to move him. So they went and made a trade. So that could happen in these situations, is you're not necessarily going to get somebody that is going to be released. It could be a situation where you throw a low round draft pick. That's really what's going on. I will say this, though. There's only one real big thing that's going to happen in the next month, and we will be talking about it a lot next week when it happens, and that's when the schedule drops. So that's the only thing that we have really waiting on us at this point. But you're right. I mean, at this point, they're doing phase 2. They're doing workouts. They're on the field doing some stuff. But OTAs really don't start until the end of May. So at this point, it's kind of time off a little bit to an extent.
Yeah, it's study, it's rehab for obviously the new acquisitions. It's a ton of indoctrination as to what this team does and how they do it. And I find that several attitudes, at least of the rookie class, do lend themselves towards that. But before we go back to the rookies, the thing that intrigues me is that there's still movement. Like you said, does a trade that was rumored earlier that didn't happen, does it really go die? I don't think so. I think there's still moves to be made. And whether it's a defensive tackle or whether it's another position on this team, I would expect that there's still a possibility that a trade is viable here, especially if you feel that $5 million in cap space or whatever can be utilized best with someone that is still currently on a roster.
Yeah, and it wouldn't shock me if Kansas City makes a move. It's going to be I hate calling it this, but it's almost a crapshoot, because you'd have to look at every single roster across the NFL to figure out who is replaceable based on who got drafted and what do teams think about the different players and their different fits. So there's a lot of different players that could be on the move in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see if that happens. The big thing for, talking about the rookies, the big thing for the rookies is they got to get acclimated to where they're living now. Yeah. They're going to be spending their time finding a place to live, and getting all that situated and getting ready to go for the season. It's a grind, and it starts now. Yeah, they're going to have some time off after, you get through OTAs and mandatory minicamp, then you'll have some time off before training camp. But this is all still time where they're working. It's not that they're not doing anything. They're working.
Yeah. And as rookie camp wraps up, they're going to work here for a couple of days, and then they're going to have a little bit of time off because everybody's got to go scatter back out to their college towns and move. So the guys that are, for Gelati, say, who does a lot of volunteer work in Louisville, like he's going to have to wrap some of those up. I'm sure he'll make a couple of appearances, and then you got to work your way back to like maybe what you think your permanent housing is going to be. You're not going to be working out of the hotel room like you have been the last 2 weeks, right? So there's a level of permanency here that I think does eke into what they do on the field as well. So what I want to see the next, week is who is making noise, who is doing anything that we get wind of, because it should be a pretty quiet period, but you never know. And who is somewhere else working with someone else. Pass rushers are meeting with all kinds of private pass rush coaches. Obviously, veterans are doing a little bit of that. Everybody's trying to stay in shape. That is really, I think, going to be the indication for who's getting ready to contribute this season. Well,
and this is kind of silly to an extent, but who shows up and works out with Patrick Mahomes and Bobby Stroop? That's real. Like, you see videos of the guys showing up and working out with Bobby Stroop, and it's all because they want to be there with Patrick. They want to work out with Patrick, and they want to get it's multifaceted, but it's building a relationship with him, getting in shape, and then also making sure their bodies are in the right condition. And guys that do that, while it may never translate to the field for some of them, it shows they have the drive to be a professional, and that's exactly what you want. So that's a piece of the puzzle.
And number one guy that I'm looking for is Jalen Royals to be doing that, because Rashee didn't make it through his first couple of camp practices without giving up his lunch. So if I were you, Jalen, I'd be training right now.
Yeah, Rashee was not ready for that heat, was he?
Nobody is. Yeah. St. Joe, more power to you. It is definitely a trip that can catch people off guard.
And Jalen Royals is played at Utah State, so I mean, he's not going to be ready for that heat.
It's dry. It's dry out here. I'm telling you. Not very far from me right now. But if you had one thing you'd like to see them do in the next week, what would it be?
Oh, man, it's tough. I'd like to see them try to find another defensive tackle that would fit into this system. And I would like to have it be somebody that they could have on their roster for 2 years, probably, not a 1-year rental. I don't know that you're going to be able to find that out there. I mean, you'd have to find somebody on a rookie contract, and generally speaking, you're not going to find people that are going to be willing to get rid of rookies. I mean, it's possible. The best case scenario in that sense would be that the coach is new and he doesn't fit their system. So maybe that's where you find somebody willing to make a trade.
Yeah.
But to me, that would be where I'd be focusing, is where can I improve my team? And to me, I'm not going to say the defensive tackle is weak, but it's still not where I would like it to be.
It's not super strong. I think that's fair to say. I'm looking at the free agent list right now, and I'm not seeing any one person that I'm like, hey, they should go get him. And that's the nature of the beast right now. Could you bring somebody in for a tryout or a look-see, like Demarcus Walker or Fatakasi or yeah. I think that tells you exactly where we're at here.
The point. I mean, that's really the point. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Is you look at the guys that are out there right now, and there just isn't anybody. Like, and that's okay. I mean, that's what you're dealing with this time of year. But you're right. You started the segment talking about the pro personnel guys being out there, and this is when they should be making their money and figuring out, how best to, support this team, because this is the time where you go find those players. Hey, this guy might be getting released. Let's go make a phone call and see, hey, can we get a trade done for even, if it's a good enough player, I would give up a 4th round pick. I mean, it obviously depends on who it is, but,
Sure.
It's all going to depend on who it is.
Yeah, and that's what it always comes down to. We'd like to know.
Pickens went for a 3rd. Sorry.
Yeah. Explosive player. Yeah, and if anybody's going to deal with a headache, it's the Dallas Cowboys. So more power to you. But we'd like to know who you're looking at. Who do you want to see? Who do you want to take a good gander at? We appreciate you guys being with us here, especially on a day where we go live. We're going to have content for you all off season. Do not worry about it. So make sure that you like, sub, hit the bell, get with us on this journey as the rookies and the new acquisitions start to get up to speed about what it is to be a Kansas City Chief. We will have it all for you. Thanks for listening today or watching today, wherever you are, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.